afternoon, everyone.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm just realizing that I sent out an agenda with an error in it. We had talked about having our first order of business be the first order of old business be the bylaws and procedures, but it just says bylaws, and then there's another item later on that says board procedures and includes bylaws.
I make a motion to amend the agenda.
Well, we haven't called the meeting to order yet.
I will make that motion.
Okay, you can make it.
Did you see my note too? I'm sitting up at Albany Med right now, so if you're able to, I appreciate it.
I did. I don't take notes during the meeting because I'm doing too many other things, but I typically would just watch the recording and make notes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Ravana, would you like to call us to order?
Absolutely. It is now 12:03 p.m., July 12th, 2022. I will now call the meeting into order.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our June meeting.
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. And then we'll review our financial statements. One thing to note up top is that truly, adding depth to the phrase down to the wire. Michelle and I just received about half an hour ago an official confirmation from Enterprise that the wire transfer has initiated. It was supposed to happen. We were not, the board received emails about this. In the previous meeting, we talked about scheduling a special meeting because we were awaiting a transfer of funds from Enterprise that could allow us to pay our bills. They told us it would take 7 to 10 business days. That time passed and we checked in. And yeah, so we had been, I think innocently misled. And then we're trying to get the wire done last week, and they had another series of clerical errors. So it just happened today. And I'll just show you our balance sheet for the end of June. So the total cash that we have in the bank account is $10,267. And we have about $14,000 of accounts payable, including my invoices, and the big ticket item is the paying for the audit fee. So that wire should be in hand in 2 to 3 days because it has indeed proceeded. I'm not sure what that means in terms of do we now need to schedule another special meeting to pay the bills, or is with confirmation that the wire has proceeded, is there an ability to approve bill payment with a contingency that we won't proceed until we have cash in hand?
Chris, would we be able to make a motion to basically pay the bills once the wire goes through, so we don't have to schedule a whole separate meeting?
So you need a motion for that?
We're asking if it's a viable.
Yeah, if it's
Oh, yeah,
something-
to Chris that?
Yeah, if we're able to do that.
I mean, I think if the funds are en route and it's a ministerial decision whether or not you've actually seen the wire in hand, I would suggest that you follow up, as I suggested, and get the Fed reference from from whoever sent it to you.
Let me see if I have the Fed reference in my inbox.
It should happen this. I'm not sure why it would take more than a day.
Yeah, I have a reference number and a gross amount. I'll just share my screen just for the record, unless there's anything wrong with sharing a reference number in public. Okay. But this is the email that we got from Enterprise. So it'll be $637,000 and change effective today. And I've been working, I talked with an employee at the Hudson branch of the Bank of Greene County when we went yesterday to set up our segregated account. So I have a contact who knows that we're expecting to receive this and can help me confirm when it finally gets through the many layers.
So I think this should be enough for us to make that motion to pay the bill, so we don't have to come back to it. I mean, we're not gonna actually pay them until the payment, of course.
When money gets there.
Yeah,
Okay, I make a motion that we use this payment advice to stand for that we will get the money where we can pay the bills without having another meeting. Anybody second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Sorry,
Michelle.
Sarah. Sorry, I didn't know if this was the part to ask, but I had another invoice that I just got this morning. Can I share that, or?
I think we have to, Chris, do we have to 24-hour that thing?
Mhm.
In the ordinary course, don't you accept invoices and pay them once a month? Audit them and pay them? Isn't that your process?
Yes.
Yes.
So unless there's some urgency, I would think that you would want to follow that same process to audit the bills and present them for payment at a subsequent meeting.
What, sorry, what do you mean by audit?
Basically, we have to submit it so we can review it and then we can do it at the next meeting.
Okay. Gotcha. I guess the thing is just, I didn't get this invoice until this morning. There was some miscommunication, but just because I would like to pay, it's for the graphic designer and she's been working, so I would like to pay her before August. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up.
Right, but the board, you have an audit procedure for a reason, and if the board needs to set another meeting mid-July, that's fine, but you really need to follow that procedure.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay. So let's proceed to old business, meat of our meeting. This is
Before we do that, can we add to set something for, I guess, mid-July? I just, I like for people doing the work to get their money.
a brief special to approve this bill.
Yep.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it'll take us 5 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be quick.
That sounds
I
great.
guess. Yeah, and we could probably do that through email.
Can I ask a question as to why did it come in late, and to make sure that doesn't do that again, give her a date that her bills have to be in so that we don't have to do this?
Yes, sure. So I'm about to present, like when I go through the housing trust fund piece, kind of a breakdown of all the remaining funds. And basically, I wanted to talk with the graphic designer about her final scope of work and agree on that scope of work. And she wanted to submit the contract for me for that, or not contract, just the modified scope of work. And it just took a little bit longer for me to figure out how much money we had left from the grant, and then for her to figure out what work she could do within that money. So,
All right.
and then she submitted it to me, but she didn't submit the actual invoice part, which I didn't pick up on until this morning. So that's why.
And this is something that we'll all know when it comes to payments.
Yeah,
All right.
so when I talk about the housing trust fund piece in a little bit, I can show you I'll kind of explain what little pieces are
But it's
lingering so
okay,
you know
you
what
can show
to
it at the,
expect.
no, you can show it at the meeting. Yeah.
Well, Michelle has a whole plan that's relevant, not just to this issue. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's been a lot. This has been a little bills coming up and some of these last minute things. So we're getting all on the same page. So thank you.
thanks, Michelle. So for that special meeting, we just need a motion.
Don't we need a date first?
We typically don't do that. But if that's a rule we're not aware of, that we're not following. But yeah, typically we just acknowledge the need and then schedule offline and then announce it to the public with, I think the rule is 72 hours notice, or 72 3 business days. Or
Okay.
Yeah, correct. I'll make that motion, schedule a special meeting to pay the bills.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks. I will send out an email to schedule a brief special meeting to approve this invoice. So moving on to so this is Ryan, if you want to continue with your motion to adjust the agenda so that we can discuss.
I'd like to make a motion to adjust the agenda accordingly. Sarah, this is for the bylaws and processes update that Chris prepared.
Do we have a second?
A second.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, you're muted.
Fix it. Okay. So last month, we provided a draft of bylaws that were really just sort of reorganizational, if you will, primarily to add governance, audit, and finance committees to the bylaws so that they were required committees. And later we're going to suggest that you assign members to those committees. But in the meantime, we had some further conversations with with Michelle and the mayor, and they proposed a revised section to move the Housing Trust Fund into these bylaws so that they were created as part of the bylaws as opposed to the way that they were originally set up, so that they really and truly are if you will, a part of the HCDPA structure. So this would propose to have the Affordable Housing Fund an HCDPA fund, just as all the ALDN funds were, and to have an advisory committee that would carry out the functions that were intended for the Housing Trust Fund, which is to determine what appropriate uses are. But ultimately, the HCDPA board is the fiduciary board responsible for expenditure of the fund. So those would be, from a legal perspective, those would be recommendations to this board, and this board would have to approve the final disposition of the funds. And I believe that the intention would be for the HTF committee then to have their meetings and to review policies and procedures, and then make those in the form of recommendations for final approval by this board. And that's what this structure does. It sort of follows that process. It's a little bit different than the trust instrument because we did away with all of the corporate structure because we're fitting this process into an already existing public authority structure. So there are no officers of that entity. The expenditures would be made, with checks being issued by the officers of HCDPA. There would be a chair of that board, however, that advisory committee. So that's the structure that's being proposed, and that's what was circulated for your review.
We also circulated, I'll just add, you might have said this, an attached resolution to approve and amend the bylaws. So Teresa, I see.
So maybe I should go into that. So there are actually a couple of different resolutions. There is a resolution to approve the amended and restated bylaws, which is to approve the bylaws themselves. Then there's a further resolution to regarding the Housing Trust Fund, and that would confirm the appointment of persons, and we can go through those appointments. That it's up to you. And then we also have in that appointments resolution, the Housing Trust Fund resolution, we have a specification for the specific grant funds that are being brought over, so that you have a record of what funds are being deposited in the Housing Trust Fund and from what source. We have a couple of blanks for Michelle to provide in her report when we get to that point in the agenda. So just kind of laying out what's in front of you there. And then we have one further resolution, which will be approving rules of order, which is the simplified version of how to conduct a meeting. Rather than relying on Robert's rules, which we find to be fairly complex for a public board, both for the public and members of the committees, we want a simplified procedure so that it's easy for the public to understand and follow what the process of the meeting is, how motions are made, how meetings are set up, and that sort of thing. So that's those are the rules of order. So do we want to start with the bylaws and have you discuss the bylaws? Madam Chair.
I'm okay with that.
Does anyone on the board have comments or questions about the bylaws and the proposed amendments?
No, I went through, Chris, I feel like I'm groundhog daying a little bit because we just did it with the IDA elements. So I went through, I read, everything's very aligned. And again, I will thank Chris because bringing these to the 21st century of having it digital, I cannot thank you enough for the ease that this will do in terms of updating everything moving forward.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome.
So we have the resolution to approve the bylaws and then also to fill these committee seats.
You want to take up the bylaws resolution first? That's probably appropriate.
Right, and let me just share my screen. So this is the resolution approving amended and restated bylaws. I guess we can fill this in here.
Yeah, that's just minutes for your use. The text of the resolution is below.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Yep. So that's the text of the resolution.
And so now we just have a vote,
Mm-hmm.
a roll call.
Well, you'll need a motion to introduce it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt and approve the amended bylaws.
Seconded.
All right, so Chair Smith. How do you vote?
Here. Oh, yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye.
Treasurer Teresa Joyner. You might be muted, Teresa. I didn't hear how you voted. There you are.
Yes, yay, a, whatever, yes.
Member Moranti
Aye.
and Secretary Wallace.
Aye.
All right. The resolution is duly adopted. And then I believe, no, that's right. Okay, that has it.
Do we fill in the front?
Come again?
Do we have to fill in the front, the top? The
I
top
think-
of this
Well,
resolution?
that's just an extract of minutes for convenience. So whoever's doing the minutes can complete that following the meeting.
Okay,
Okay, so then we're done there. And then we'll save this document. And then now do we want to move on to, do we want to fill these committee seats or move on to the procedures resolution?
The rules of order, you might want to take up the rules of order.
Okay,
That was the agenda, I think.
okay.
Okay,
Thanks for keeping me straight.
sure.
Um,
You want to pull that up?
yeah, it just always takes a
Yep.
minute.
There you go. Great.
This is the resolution approving or drafted resolution approving these rules of order, which are below. So there's a sort of a combined resolution, and here's the text that we're considering. And it's been in your inbox. So does the board have any questions about these rules of order or comments to make?
I'm reading. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it.
Chris, can you maybe describe what are significant changes here, or what do you think? Will be-
Sure. So you haven't had these types of procedures before in the past. I think you had a reference to Robert's rules. We've removed those. So we're adopting these. So you have general procedures. So the chair presides over the meeting. In the absence of the chair, of course, the vice chair would preside. We have a general order of business, and you can vary that, of course. This is just the standard order of business when somebody's preparing an agenda. And the board can always determine to set a particular agenda, but otherwise, the agenda should be approved by the chair and posted ahead of the board meeting. And there is a process provided for board members to add resolutions and motions ahead of time. That can be informal, but there's a process so that if someone wants to get something on the agenda, there's a process to do that. And then again, motions and resolutions are to be seconded, then put for the vote, and record the minutes in their entirety, in the motions and resolutions in the official minutes, so they become a part of the minutes. Then we have a process for public hearings, which is pretty straightforward. It provides for a standard 3 minutes for people to speak. The board can always vary that, but at least you have then a process to follow in the absence of varying it for a particular purpose at that time. The presiding officer, of course, controls what's going on in terms of the process of that hearing. Then you have a note on public comment that the public has a right to be present but not to comment. The board, of course, can set a public comment period, but it's not required to. And we have some rules of decorum, which are typical rules of decorum. We often put those together with the public hearing provisions in our public information that we, our sign-up sheets, if we have a public hearing. We often put that out to remind people what the process is for holding our public hearings, to make sure that they are orderly, so that everybody can be heard. Then we have notice of meetings to be provided under the Public Officers Law, and that the Open Meetings Law will govern the process for giving those notices, so that we just adhere to that time frame. Then we have, of course, just a description really of what an executive session means. That's just somewhat informational. And again, reminding people that there is also such a thing as an attorney-client session, which is different from an executive session. And then reminding people that we're subject to FOIL, and that minutes must be kept and completed within 2 weeks of a meeting or 1 week of an executive session where an action might be taken. So these things are the latter, maybe the last few items are really informational, but it helps, I think, both the board and the public remember what provisions apply to this type of board because it is a public board. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we pursue a motion?
Thank you again, Chris. You have.
I can finish that. Brought us into the 21st century, so thank you.
Yeah, Ravanda, your audio cut out.
I want to ask a question for the attorney-client meeting. Should there be another statement in there as to how would that be voided?
How would it be?
In other words, what should you not do after attorney-client meeting?
Oh, well, that may be the first subject of discussion in an attorney-client meeting is the purpose of holding an attorney-client meeting. It says private, is it's intended that the board have an opportunity to consult with its attorney in a private session about legal matters. It's different from an executive session in that it's not for the board to discuss with one another matters that are to be decided by the board. It is only for the board to ask and get advice from their lawyers as to a particular course of action or a particular matter that may be pending. It is not, it's not for the board to have discussion with one another. It's for what's intended to be confidential attorney-client communications.
One another or others, like just take it out to the public or people that were not part of the board or,
well, right. I mean, it's the board, it's the board's privilege. So, the board is entitled to, decide who can be in a room when you're having an attorney-client meeting, but typically you would not want to have anybody but the board because those are the members that are subject to the privilege, to the attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
So, okay.
Just wanted to know if there was another
Yeah,
statement.
understand.
All right, thank you.
All right. So I think you're still waiting for a motion.
I'd like to make the motion, please.
Did you lose Ravanda?
Oh,
No, she's here.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Okay, I just couldn't see her. There you go. Okay.
I'll second the motion that Wallace made.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's great. Chris, I have no idea what resolution number this is. We need to figure that out later. But appreciate y'all. I will file these.
Should it be numbered like the year first and dash the number? Yeah, like is it 2022 or do you just go 22 dash?
Either way, but I think that's a good process because
Yeah.
then it's easier to keep track of the resolutions. Yeah.
I would go 2022 dash whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
Sarah, would you like to go back to the ALDN program updates and then take up the Housing Trust Fund? Because then it might have some more context.
That sounds great. Yes. So let's pass the floor to Michelle for our next order of business.
Okay, so just because there's a couple pieces to what I'm talking about, would you like me to talk just about the ADLN updates and the budget, but not about the Housing Trust Fund amount? Yeah, is that what you're saying, Sarah?
Oh, those two items in our agenda are back to back. So I think whatever makes sense to you in terms of how you present this information, getting.
Okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen because I have a bunch of info for everybody. Okay. Okay, so basically, I wanted to do 3 things today. So the first one is that I know that you all came in at the tail end of this grant. And so each month I've been giving you these invoices to approve, but it hasn't been totally clear about what's remaining in the grant and what's left in the budget. So I want to show you what is the final grant activities that are still being carried out, so you understand what invoices are still to be coming. I have a whole package of kind of documentation to support this that I'm going to send you after the meeting. So if you have any questions, I can let you know. So I talk about kind of just the amounts and the final invoices. I'll give you some program updates on the actual programs themselves, and then we can transition into talking about the Housing Trust Fund. So what I have on the screen is that we had an original budget for all of the ADLN activities. So this was made in, I believe, 2020. And over time, we modified, some things changed. And so the grant technically originally ended in March 2021, but Enterprise extended the grant terms on the condition that we submit a plan for how to use unallocated funds. Or leftover funds. And so I worked with all 7 of the ADLN team members to make that plan, and Enterprise approved that. So one of the things I'm sending you all after this meeting is there's kind of some emails back and forth with the different ADLN team members who all gave their approval. I met with all of them in person or had conversations with emails just documenting that approval, and then also Enterprise's approval of that as well as the plan. There's a lot of different components to it, so I'm just explaining this to you verbally, but if any other questions, feel free to ask. So basically, the modified is our final budget. And so there's more information, but basically the Hudson Root staff, we spent a little less there because they hired some folks a little bit late with COVID. We had some hiring shortages. So that funds were transferred to increase the housing trust fund, the Hudson Roots, the money we actually spent giving out to people. And so some of these things like, so my salary, we modified a little bit because I was hired a little bit later. Sarah was the temporary housing district director, so that was a little bit more. So we'll still be seeing my Q2 salary at some point. The outreach team, so this is one of those final invoices that you still will be seeing. The amount has stayed the same, but we haven't expended all of it yet. So one of the things the team decided was the outreach team was originally folks who were going out in the community and speaking with residents and going to events. But we thought we could reach more people by hiring that graphic designer and creating the Instagram account and creating print material and online educational material. And so this is that other invoice that you'll be receiving. It's her last invoice. So that's from Lazy Studio is the name of that designer. There will be more material expenses for outreach. So for example, I've been paying for a survey software for the for the housing survey. So you'll see those invoices probably next month. Some couple material things like some printing, some gift cards we're giving to participants who have come to our events. And we might have some more, we haven't used all the salary time yet for the outreach team, so you might see their invoices in the next month or so. So this is probably the biggest item where there's still going to be invoices. The next items have been spent already, the fringe for the Hudson Root staff, and mine will be part of that Q2 salary. The Housing Trust Fund, we are going to discuss at the end of this. We modified, we had some extra funds from our Housing Justice Fellowship. We had less fellows than anticipated, and so we used some of that money to go back to the Housing Trust Fund. So that's why it's a little bit more. The Hudson Roots, as we discussed, you all been part of that conversation that we took some of the admin staff money that was left over from the Hudson Roots staff line, and we added it to the rental assistance. So that's why that amount is more, but we have provided all that money to Promise Neighborhoods to expend. I'll give you the update on that in a little bit. This learning sessions line is the Housing Justice Organizer Fellowship. So that program has ended. That was what we trained the fellows using organizers to help some members from our community gain more skills in advocating for housing justice. And that we had a few less fellows, and the staff was smaller than anticipated with COVID. Again, there were some hiring shortages, so that's why that was underspent. This is the consultant line. So basically, we originally had $30,000 for an affordable housing plan and advanced placement plans. We spent less here because we created the affordable housing development plan, as you all know, but Spark had the Hudson Housing Authority and HCDPA contributed to that. So we spent less here. So the team agreed to use those extra funds to hire a consultant who we're going to talk about. It's called, so that was what we've been talking about in the past few meetings, where I put out an RFP for a consulting firm. So rather than, we have enough plans, we have a lot of housing studies, we know what we need to do. And so I've been working on different housing policy initiatives, and we wanted to hire a firm to help with some of the underwriting, some of the financial analysis, and giving a second look over some of these housing strategies. And that's really going to leverage our money rather than hiring someone to do all these individual policy initiatives. I'm doing most of the work. We're hiring one firm to help out with 6 different tasks and to really make sure that everything is really well thought through and researched. So this invoice, if we're going to discuss it today, if you guys approve this contract with the firm BFJ, then that will be invoices you will see in the future. So BFJ was selected. We put out an RFP, as I said in the last meeting. We received 7 awesome responses. I had a rubrics based on the RFP. We interviewed the top 4. So the mayor's office interviewed the top 4 candidates, and we selected BFJ, who fell within our, they were the best price, but also offered almost our entire scope of work that we wanted. So that was really awesome. And there will be another invoice for the Housing Trust Fund, Hedgeman Law Firm that helped them set up some of their basic work. So this line item you won't see anymore. The Affordable Housing Development Plan is finished, as you all know. The Housing Roots admin cost, that was St. Catharines, that is finished. And then this last line is the admin marketing. It's a little bit modified. I didn't spend very much on supplies, so that's less. And so some of this is just going to stay in HCDPA's account, since we know that we owe HCDPA for some of your bookkeeping and legal and auditing fees. So this is just so you all understand what, how we modify the budget and what the final invoices are that you can be expecting in the next few months. And I will be following up with the documentation from the ADLN team and from Enterprise if you want to dig through that. I'm going to pause for a moment and just see if anyone has any questions.
No, I like that you appropriated where you needed to.
Thanks.
I am looking at this on a mobile phone though, so.
Well, I'm going to send everything in email, so when you have time and a bigger screen.
Yeah, thank you. But no, I mean, it makes sense. It's clear. Are we at risk of going over at all?
No.
Okay,
No.
good. That was the biggest thing. Yeah, I just want to make sure we like you keep whatever you can for like the reserve for a rainy day, you know?
Yeah, so there's actually, we'll probably still be over in this outreach line. And then we might have to just do a resolution that transfers. So part of the, we will not go over. We may have some left on the outreach line. And if we do, then the ADLM plan is that transfers to the Housing Trust Fund. So if that happens, then we might just need to resolve to transfer that to that account, but we will not go over. Okay, cool.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Who all worked on this?
Sure. So the ADLN team was Mayor Johnson, Rebecca Wolf, Michael Chimidas, Calvin Lewis, Luisa de la Borges, Surya McGriff, Dan Kent.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a team.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought, yeah, it was a team of people that came up with this. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sending the email confirmations that was there written, but that doesn't reflect the phone calls and coffee and meetings that went into the development of these processes. Okay, so then this, so moving forward, we should have like a better sense of what invoices I'll be presenting, and I will make sure they are sent on time in the future. So I'm going to move along to the next part, which is just the quick program updates. So I'll try to be quick. So Hudson Roots, just so you know, we gave $21,000 to Promise Neighborhoods to expend on rental assistance. They've done a really great job. They've spent a little less than half of it. So they've helped 13 households, which is 30 individuals. Some themes they're noting is that some people are having seasonal unemployment. So that's a way that this has helped out some folks who are just a little less on money right now. And that there's been a lot of difficulty getting through some of the red tape of other programs. Something Hudson Roots has been really awesome about is that they're really been going through all other options with folks first. So even though we have not spent all this money, we know we have the need, but basically Promise Neighborhood has a queue of folks lined up and they're working through with each family to see, can we help you access money from Catholic Charities or from DSS or other sources that they might be eligible for. And then if that's not, then Hudson Roots is that final option to help as a stopgap. So I've been really impressed with how they've been working with everyone in the community. We are also found out, unfortunately, St. Catherine's, who had their own rental assistance program that they were getting, I think, federal funds from, that has dried up and is no more. And so we anticipate that this money will definitely be needed, since that was a really useful other source. So that's Hudson Roots. Next is our engagement. So we have been doing a survey. We have had over 200 responses to date. About half of them are from our lower and medium income residents who are.
Michelle, I don't mean to cut you off. But did we get this in an email?
Yes, I'm sending
You're
it.
doing?
I have not sent it yet. I have not sent it yet, but I'm sending it at the end of the meeting.
Okay, because we didn't get a chance. Okay, so we didn't get a chance to look at this ahead of time. All right, because I'm looking. Did I miss this? Okay, thank you.
I'm just
No, this
presenting
is
the
a
information.
presentation.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
But I'm sending it, so if you have any follow-up questions, you can do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just to let you know, for engagement, so that's been our outreach team, and the Lazy Studio has been doing our graphic designs and our engagement strategy. So we've had over 200 responses to the survey. About half of them are from our target audience of the lower income residents. We've had 4 in-person events or been done pop-up at Waterfront Wednesday, at Juneteenth, and we have some more events planned so we can reach people in person who might not be online or on social media. And we have, so Lazy Studio is extending that, they're not extending, they're continuing their contract through July, which is that invoice that we previously discussed. So that's that engagement. I'm also going to present the results of that at our August meeting, so you can see what we've learned from all of it and what we plan to do with that information.
Michelle, do you want to also do that at a council meeting too? Because I think like the platform, yeah, okay, good. You're with me. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Ryan. Okay, so then our next program, as I discussed, was the housing strategy consultant. So we already went over this. We will talk more about that, asking if you all want to look at and approve their contracts. We'll discuss that in a little bit, I believe. So I talked to you about why we chose them, and we talked about what we're going to do with them. So some of their things they're going to look at is doing a financial feasibility of long-term sources of revenue for the Housing Trust Fund, doing financial feasibility of inclusionary zoning options, looking at community land trust options, things like that that were identified in our strategic housing action plan. Okay, and then the last thing is talking about the Housing Trust Fund. So if that's cool, Sarah, I'm going to transition to the Housing Trust Fund. Does that work? Cool. So
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
We're done.
So we just discussed the bylaw recommendations that you all approved. So thank you. So so basically what this means is that we now have you as HCDPA overseeing the Housing Trust Fund, and then we have our advisory board underneath it. And so what they're going to be working on is recommending a budget for you all. They're going to create grant guidelines. So basically who is eligible to apply for Housing Trust Fund money. They're going to be working with me to analyze the engagement and a housing needs assessment that I'm creating. So for example, Dustin Duncan is one of the members of the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee. He's a PhD Columbia professor. So he is going to help me look over some of the data I have about housing, like quantity of housing needs and stuff. So we can really process how this funds can be most useful. And then we're going to think about long-term funding priorities and sources. So the way this works, it's a back and forth process between the advisory board and you. So basically this month in July and August, the advisory board is going to be looking at engagement data, looking at quantitative data, and we're going to work on a recommended budget for how to spend the money for this year. They'll present that to you, and well, I'll present it on behalf of them to you. And then you may approve their budget according to the provisions that you guys approved today in the bylaw. So just the same uses and eligible reasons for using the budget. And then the advisory committee will then create the grant guidelines. They're going to solicit applicants, and they will go through interviewing interested recipients, and they'll then select who they think should be receiving the grant, what programs or purposes. They will recommend them to you, and then you will approve those grant recipients. So basically they're doing the kind of the groundwork of the research and engaging and that kind of thinking through those decisions. And then you all get to check, okay, is what they decided in keeping with what we have in these bylaw amendments about saying the purpose and who this is used for. The timeline of this is fuzzy because I'm not sure if we're going to squeeze this in 2022, if we're going to start fresh with the actual funding in 2023. But this budget process you will be seeing in the fall. So just kind of showing their role and your role. Any questions about that? Okay. So then the next piece, and Chris, tell me if this is the wrong time to talk about it, but just telling the funds that are coming into HCDPA from the Housing Trust Fund. So this is the total amount of seed funds that will be coming to the Housing Trust Fund and again, I'm emailing all this material to you, is the 601,000. 581 of this is coming from enterprise for the Housing Trust Fund, and then 20,000 is coming from the city of Hudson. And so this is the funds that's being wired to us this week. This we have not received yet. We may not receive for a little bit from the city. And so real quick, I want to show you that 20,000 coming from the city of Hudson. Basically, in the fall, the BEA voted to put 20,000 into the Housing Trust Fund account. So that is on page 20 of the 2022 budget. I just have it highlighted here, that 21,000 that's coming from the city. And then the 581,933, I realize is super fuzzy. I'm sending you a clearer version, but this is showing that the Housing Trust Fund account, this is what the disbursement form signed by Enterprise or approved by Enterprise. And then this is the final amount, the 637, because that includes the 581 for the Housing Trust Fund, and then about 55,000, which is our last disbursement for the ADLN programs. So this was what is being wired to us this week, just to understand the breakdown. Again, is that 581,933 for the Housing Trust Fund, and then the remaining surplus stays in the account for ADLN activities. And so then I guess my question would be for Chris and Sarah, is that, do we need to have a resolution accepting those funds? And is that sufficient information?
So the board has a resolution to consider that was provided ahead of time that says that this is both confirming the appointment of the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee, and then confirming acceptance of ALDN grant funds, the amount of X, which based on this number would be 581,933.03, and then authorizing and ratifying the acceptance of, and in this case, I was under the impression that was ARPA funds, but it's not. So that would be city funds in the amount of $20,000, correct?
Yes, the Housing Trust Fund amount on the cents, it's 0.05.
0.05. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I guess I hard time reading that little screen.
Yeah.
Chris, did you send out the edit with the ARPA change. The document I have is from when we talked yesterday. I was going to pull it up and put it on the screen.
I
But if
just sent
not,
it to you. I just sent it to you. So, yeah.
let me see if I can find it.
So we just have to edit a couple of things.
Okay. Okay. So great. So
Yep.
I'm pulling this up.
Can you pull up the one I sent you yesterday?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thank you.
We're sharing our screen. This is the right thing, right? Yes. So we're scrolling down.
So, right, so here, it's why don't you start at the beginning and we'll go through the resolution. Not there, but in the text of the resolution. There we go. So the resolution regarding the Housing Trust Fund, which is desires to appoint members to a Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee. Again, that was just created by adoption of your bylaws and confirm the establishment of the Housing Trust Fund. So hereby confirms appointment. Now, this is for your board to approve. We have filled in the names of, I don't think this is the corrected one.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Apologies. We're there, right? Yeah.
That's not the corrected one either.
No,
I can maybe pull it up.
What's not? This is,
Tom's name.
oh,
I apologize, Tom.
is it DE?
Yes. There we go. We just had a couple of corrections there. And then, so these are the members of the current committee, except that the original document specified that the executive director of the Hudson Housing Authority was an ex officio member. So in there, Jeffrey Dodson, as he's now been seated, was substituted for Nick Zakos. And Michelle has indicated that Nick Zakos submitted a request to be appointed to this board. So again, that's up to this board to determine these appointments. So that's what's been filled in here was the original appointments plus Mr. Zakos. Okay. And then the next, do you want to move on and then they can discuss all of it? So this blank, Michelle is proposing to fill in 581,933.05, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in the next paragraph, we need to change ARPA funds because according to the budget, it's City of Hudson funds, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And Heather confirmed that yesterday.
In the amount of, and it's $20,000
Yes.
for that blank.
And is there any more detail about the City of Hudson funds, like general funds or no? Okay. Okay,
Okay.
it's there, and we're going to Bank of Greene County.
Right. And then, so that's it. That's the text of the resolution. So I guess it would be appropriate to ask if the board, someone would like to move and second for discussion and then discuss the resolution.
I'll make a motion to move for discussion.
I'll make the second.
And we don't have, now we're not voting, we're just discussing because we've been seconded, right? Okay.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
I mean, the only comment that I have would be that we move forward.
Here we go.
With it as is, appointing Nick Zakos to stay on the board as a community member, now that he's not the executive director of the Hudson Housing Authority. Because I believe that's the main change, is the switch between Jeffrey Dobson and Nick now, no longer filling that interim role.
I totally agree with that as well.
If there's no more discussion, I mean, I think I'm prepared to
Okay.
vote if everybody else is.
Sarah, would you take a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Chairwoman Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson,
Aye.
Treasurer Joyner.
What am I voting for? Nick?
No,
No,
well,
you're voting for
the whole thing.
Full board?
So that would
yes.
include approving Nick as an appointee and
Oh, because I thought we voted for everybody else. So, okay, oh, yes.
Yeah, but we had to change everything over.
bring a yes vote, is that correct?
About that too.
And then member Moranti.
Moranti.
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. And lastly, Secretary Wallace.
Aye.
Okay. Duly adopted. I will save this now. Thank you. I think we can stop there.
All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, we're all in favor. Okay, so what is next? Are there any, that's it for the housing fund updates, correct?
Yes, the only thing was if we want to discuss authorizing the chair to sign the contract with EFJ once we have money in the account.
Is that possibly something that you would like to circulate the contract and the information to the board so that they know what they're being asked to approve, and maybe take that up at your follow-up meeting?
A
Okay,
special meeting.
okay,
Mhm.
that sounds good.
So for the minutes, our special meeting will be to approve bills and to consider this contract.
I think that would be preferable.
Yeah,
That the
correct.
board has a chance to look at the contract.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you.
All right. So the next order of business would be updates from the HHA.
Hello, everyone. As you all know, Jeff's first day was June 27th, and he came in with a bang. I was under the assumption that when we got a full-time executive director, my work will be done, but he has been ramping it up even more in a good way. That's the update on Jeff. He will be coming to meetings moving forward as well. He is on vacation this week. He'll be back on Monday, but moving forward, he will be coming to the meetings to join us as well in the public. He's very interested. He's just been digging into the community, digging into the tenants, digging into the employees, digging into the board, letting us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how to run things, and everything has just been amazing and beautiful. And other than that, I know our council's plans are to pick back up with Chris. Brian did have surgery, so he won't be returning back to work until tomorrow, but he did give a update that he will be picking up with Chris. If not the end of this week, it will be early next week. So that's all the update I have on HHA.
Thanks, Rhonda. And I suppose this sort of rolls into our the next item on our agenda is the properties and RFP discussion. We at the last meeting we discussed having the attorneys for HCDPA and HHA meet to consider some sort of option payment or something like that, an upfront payment to help enable this deal. Chris, do you want to provide the update on that?
Yeah, I actually don't have any further information. We did meet with Brian Lawler, representing the HHA, and communicated the board's wishes about the terms. And I would say he was open to that and was going to get back to us with his plans for the RFP and an MOU. And he did share a very brief format of an MOU from another project. And I would expect as soon as he's formulated what he wants to do with the RFP, he would be back in touch with us. We may want to let him know that we have another meeting coming up when we know what the date is.
If that's the case, would we need to discuss in this meeting adding that to the agenda for the special meeting in the event that we have information to cover.
You certainly could, or you can schedule a special meeting for those two items and other matters which may come before the board.
Okay. That's good to know. Does anyone else have anything to add about this ongoing discussion about properties and a potential development deal with HA? It sounds like we're just waiting to learn more about what's possible from HHA's attorneys.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if there's no additional information or comment, then and we don't have any new business on the agenda, and we can open the floor to public. Dominic, some of your surroundings are bleeding through. I don't know if you want that.
On the thruway
Yeah.
or here?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a, hold on for a second.
So I think we're waiting on Dominic to chime in with something.
I think he was talking.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm in a car, so we got three things going on. So Sarah, I just want to, and then maybe bring Chris into this, is maybe revisit the letter of to Galvin about the $20,000 that, clerical error that was done. If maybe we can move that in, forward as a, just, in good faith, because of the error, with our finance, maybe we could do something with that. Send them a letter saying, there's an error, there's $20,000. And I know it's, there's nothing legally, but maybe good faith that he would help us out due to our financial situation.
Yeah, if even not a lump sum, just to reinstate monthly payments on that loan, it would come to about $450 something per month. So just to refresh everyone's memory, at the end of 2018, a previous iteration of this board, there had been I believe, based on my research, there had been a long-standing clerical error where the amortization schedule for a $32,000 loan between that Galvin Housing Resources took up when they absorbed Housing Resources Columbia County. That loan was incorrectly amortized because the starting balance, even though the starting balance of the loan was $32,000 on the amortization schedule, it was listed as $14,800 and something, which was the same starting balance as another loan that we're still receiving payment on. So it was a clerical error, and nobody caught it until after we, made what we thought was the final payment, and the board voted to consider the loan legally satisfied. And then we switched auditors and a whole bunch of other things, and discovered the error and notified Galvin in the following year. And we've had some conversations, some email exchanges about this matter, but haven't made any. I let Dan Kent, is the person I was in touch with, know about the issue, but never heard back. So that's the status of that issue.
And maybe that because they have a lot of projects, they may be more willing to go ahead and pay us now. What do you think?
Is your thought, Chris?
I guess what I would say is the project approvals are separate from the issue of whether they would consider a payment on this particular matter. I think that they have to be considered separately. But if Dominic, if you would like me to,
Hey, you can continue on. I'm gonna stay on this, all right?
I'm gonna mute you because you're bleeding.
if you'd like me to get the materials from Sarah and just write a request letter as opposed to a demand letter, shall we say? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think that's best case scenario.
Do you want that from the board? Or do you want me to just pen a letter representing a request from the board? Probably, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, a letter from you, Chris, representing the board is what? Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Okay.
I totally agree with that.
All right, Teresa, Sarah, you can send me the materials if you would. Thank you.
I'll do that ASAP.
I think they're gonna pay us.
I like that attitude, Teresa. All right. Unless there's any further suggestions, we can open the floor for public comment.
We have.
We have one member, two. And in absence of public comment, we could have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks,
Thank you,
y'all.
everyone.
Bye.
Look forward to the email for the special meeting.